So my name is Jason Ruff. I'm running for Pennsylvania State Representative here in District 183. We are doing another installment of Coffee with a Candidate here in Charlotte Fay's Main Street Diner on Main Street in Slatington. And we're here with two people to talk to us today about fair districts and ending gerrymandering. We have Billy here and Virginia. I will let them introduce themselves, but this is going to be a very interesting conversation, and we're going to talk a little bit about the logistics behind gerrymandering, how we ended up in this situation, and what we need to do moving forward. My candidacy, one of the platform pieces that I have been running on, I am a huge supporter of fair districts. I always have been, and unfortunately my opponent here in District 183 has not been supporting fair districts. So I will, Billy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then Virginia?
I'm Billy Klein, New Tripoli, Pennsylvania. I was born and raised in Lehigh County, and I'm supportive of Jason Ruff and the subjects that you have focused on for this election.
Great, thank you, Billy. Virginia?
Hi, I'm Virginia Bedoni. I'm a psychologist. I've been a member of fair districts for over a year. It is something I'm passionately interested in, and I also am very supportive of Jason's candidacy. And we're here to talk today about gerrymandering, to try to break it down and make it something that people understand and can get behind.
Yeah, it can be, you know, just to get started, this issue can be a little complicated and convoluted, and it's taken us a long time to get to this point where a lot of people feel disenfranchised. So I'm happy for you to say that we're going to break this down a little bit for people and give people the nuts and bolts behind gerrymandering and what we need to do to fix that. So why don't we just start? We have a couple of questions that we're just going to hit on here, and then we'll talk about moving forward. Why don't one of you just give a very brief explanation on what is gerrymandering when we talk about gerrymandering, or you know, how districts are created and boundary lines. What is gerrymandering officially?
So this is important, especially in the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is probably one of the most, if not the most, gerrymandered state in the Union, in our United States. So it's good to know about this and to give a little bit of civics lesson. Every 10 years, we do a national census, and the state of Pennsylvania is important because our population shifts, and because our population shifts, the maps, the voting maps, are redrawn. In our state, those maps are redrawn, I think it's 2021, and when that happens, they are drawn by the party in power. And what has happened over the years, and it's gotten worse gradually over years, is that the party bosses are in charge of doing the maps. And what they have done, and it's not a partisan issue because both parties have done it, is that they draw the maps according to who they want to vote for their party. And so they reduce the effectiveness, or they pick their voters essentially. So they're drawing their maps, choosing their voters, making the voters of the opposite party have less influence, count less, and they're making their party's votes more important. So they do this process called packing and cracking, which is basically just making sure that the maps are either breaking apart votes or packing in votes, thus diluting the one vote, one person. And so gerrymandering takes away our one man, one woman, one vote, and dilutes our votes.
And just you know, just to reiterate something that you said, Virginia, which was so great, is that it's those party leaders that are in power at the time that the maps are drawn that are the ones drawing the maps.
Yes.
So, you know, I hear a lot when I hear people talking about gerrymandering in fair districts, the term conflict of interest.
Yes.
You know, and that is a huge conflict of interest when you have the party leaders doing the drawing of the districts.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, and like I said, it's happened on both major parties, and so everybody's responsible for where we are now.
Yep. Thank you.
I think it's important to explain why we get the opportunity to redraw the map.
Yeah, please do.
And why does the census necessitate a redrawing? Because the basic rule is the size of the district, the number of voters. So they try to make the districts more equal. So an urban district...
In population.
Yes.
By population.
Right.
So an urban district would be smaller and rural districts would be larger. So that's the reason that they redraw. It's not the composition of the area,
Right.
it's the number of people.
Right, so as the population changes, gets bigger or smaller, they redraw the districts so that each district has roughly about the same number of people, registered or unregistered, right?
Right.
Roughly about 700,000, I think. Is that, is
Okay.
that number? Maybe. I
Well,
think
It'd
it's
be
the-
less,
less,
the
okay.
60,000, I think.
District 183 has about 65,000 people.
Okay.
And I think if I remember correctly, 62,000 is an average amount of people per district. That's average. So District 183 has roughly just slightly over the state average of population. So I mean, I think there's some that have up to 80 and some that have a little less, but the average is about 62.
Okay, it's good to know.
Yep.
I think you made a good point, Virginia, that it's not a Republican problem
No.
or a Democrat problem. It rotates.
Mhm.
When the Democrats are in power, and they have been, they gerrymandered the districts for their favor.
Right.
When the Republicans took over, they did it. So this is not an attack on Republicans or Democrats. They take turns.
Yeah, it's sort of like a bipartisan attack.
Yes, yes.
I mean, there are many party leaders over decades of time that have really capitalized on this and disenfranchised the voters, right?
True. True.
So I think what is important is that when these lines are drawn, that they keep communities together and not to break up a community, because a community has interests in that community that are unique and special to that community. So we want their candidates, the people who are bringing in their resources, to be from that community instead of being split up and broken apart. And so,
Well, they always keep voting precincts. They can never break up a voting precinct, I believe. They can break up, like District 183 includes South Whitehall Township, but it only includes precinct 5, 6, and 8. So they can break up the township, or they can break up the borough, so to say, or you know, a community, but they can't break it up. They can't break up a voting precinct. So they couldn't break up South Whitehall 8. They can break up South Whitehall, or they can break up Whitehall Township. It includes Whitehall Township, but only 7, 10, and 11. So that's, you know, District 183, you could say is gerrymandering, is gerrymandered. Interestingly enough, District 183, if you look at the boundary lines, one would say the shape of the district is gerrymandered. I have it right here on the place map. You can see, if you're just looking at boundary lines, you can, some would say this is gerrymandered. What is interesting though is what people I don't think realize is how close and competitive the voting registrations are. So there's about 17,380 registered Democrats in District 183 and 17,250 registered Republicans. So if you look at registrations, it actually isn't gerrymandered because it's so competitive that one election it could go Republican, the next election it could go Democrat, the next election, you know, it could flip-flop. It's the boundary lines that you would say are gerrymandered. The problem is, I think statewide, and correct me if I'm wrong, there would be some districts in the northern part of the state that are not competitive. They might have 18,000 registered Republicans and 6,000 registered Democrats, you know? So And the flip side of that is you might have some districts down in the Philadelphia area that might be 17,000 or 18,000 registered Democrats and 6,000 registered Republicans. You know, if you're in a district where it's not competitive and you have a state rep that is Democrat because your district has 18,000 Democrats, then those 6,000 Republicans, their vote will never count. And that's what makes gerrymandering not fair. And when you have the party leaders and that conflict of interest drawing those lines, that's how people end up completely disenfranchised. And then you have people saying, my vote doesn't count, why should I vote? You know, so I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, share Fair District's position on this. Your position would be, as an organization, to bring a lot more of the districts into that competitive range so that we have, and I think we talked about it earlier, an independent citizens commission doing the drawing of those lines so that they're drawing them in such a way that there's more of a balance between registered Democrats, registered Republicans, so that it is a lot more competitive in a lot more of the districts in Pennsylvania.
Yes, I mean, Berks County is a good example of this. Berks County is divided into 4 different districts.
Yeah.
And so some areas of Berks County, their representatives don't live anywhere near where community, they don't represent their community.
Right.
So we're really trying to keep communities together. So whether it's competitive or not, we're really trying to keep this community is one community, has similar problems, similar issues. We want someone who represents that community. Right now, they're chopped apart, they're divided up, and so this community that might have their central issues, part of it goes over here, part of it people are voting over here, part of it's this district out here. We want to keep communities together because community issues count, they matter. Mm-hmm. And right now, we're all chopped up.
I think a good example, there's in Montgomery County, there is a neighborhood that is literally one corner is one district, the other corner is another, and the third is another. Our 3 districts converge at a corner in Montgomery County. Yeah. It's that ridiculous. And I've heard in my township, right down the line, they've said things like, we don't want the people over the mountain telling us what to do. Right. It's what Virginia said, they want it to be community oriented.
Right. Now, Billy, were you referring in Montgomery County to a House district or a Senate district or a congressional district? Can you explain a little bit about how these districts are not one and the same?
That's a really good point, because when we all saw the headlines in the past year that the Supreme Court had settled the gerrymandering, had reset the districts, right, most people thought it was fixed.
For everyone.
For everyone.
Yep.
But it was just the congressional, it was the U.S. posts, right, the U.S. offices, not the Pennsylvania offices.
Right. Not the House, not the Pennsylvania House, and not the Pennsylvania Senate.
Correct.
So we have in the Capitol, there's the Senate and the House of Representatives in Washington. In the state of Pennsylvania, that lawsuit changed the maps that are voting for the senators and the House of Representatives in Washington.
Right.
That go to Washington.
Not Harrisburg.
Not Harrisburg.
Washington.
The Harrisburg maps have not been changed at all, and they're equally as gerrymandered. And to make it even more complicated, what the state Supreme Court ruled on, which created a different set of maps, that ruling only goes to 2020, and then it reverts back to the old system,
so
which
it
is
only
the same
fixed
process.
The old map.
Yes.
For the current election.
And only for congressional districts.
Correct. So we still have some, a problem to fix here.
Lots of, yes.
So can we talk a little bit about, and this, this might be the final question, I'm not even sure. Where do we go from here? What is the solution to fixing all of the Pennsylvania maps, all of the House maps, all of the Senate districts, all of the congressional districts moving forward? Where are we at? What do we need to do to fix the problem so that, like you said, in 2021, we're drawing good, fair maps?
we need to elect people like you, Jason, people who are bound to their citizens.
Right.
And are more interested in representing the people than representing their party.
Exactly. And I have always said that. From the day that I started to run, I wanted to support my district, the citizens, the people, not my party. So I love that you said that. You know, just for a little bit of background, there in the Lehigh Valley, I believe every Democratic candidate, and despite the fact that this has bipartisan, the bills that were being put forth to fix this problem in Harrisburg had a lot of bipartisan support, had support from Democrats, had support from Republicans. Unfortunately, in the Lehigh Valley area, all the Democratic candidates this election cycle that are up against Republican incumbents, they are supporting fair districts, and there are a few Republican incumbents here in the Lehigh Valley that have not been supportive of fair districts. So, you know, I just want to continue to hammer home that I am a huge supporter of fair districts because I believe it's the best for the people of the district.
So all of these maps are made by people, and basically it's all done in Harrisburg.
Right.
So it's the Harrisburg, everybody heading to Harrisburg, citizens need to contact their legislators and insist that they're fair, and insist that they back these bills because it all comes out of Harrisburg.
Right.
And it's just really important that citizens contact their legislators or the candidates running and find out where they stand on fair districts, because that's where the maps are created.
And it's not complicated.
It doesn't have to be complicated.
They hit
right?
a button. You can create the districts with a hit of a button on a computer.
Yeah.
It's the parameters.
Yeah.
So people think it takes months and months to draw these maps. It's done very easily when you put the philosophy into it.
Well, and it takes longer when you're looking for more ways
Yes.
to discriminate.
Yes.
You know, and that's how we ended up with this very complicated issue. So then the last question would be this bill that I referred to. There was bills in session earlier this year that were not able to come out of committee. So some people have put bills forward that would fix this problem.
There were two bills. There was a Senate bill and a House bill. 722 House bill, 22 Senate bill. Both of those bills we had trouble getting out of committee. When they finally came out of committee, they were changed so radically, people were unable to support them.
True.
And so it's very complicated to get this through, but it's not that complicated to say that you want fairness and you want every person to have a fair vote and a reason to vote, that their vote counts. That's not that complicated.
Right.
So that's really, we need a lot of support coming to our candidates, to people already in office. Fair Districts is a great website, has a great website, will tell you where your candidates stand.
Yep.
And explain more than we could explain today about this.
Yeah, great.
And that website is?
fairdistrictspa.com.
So
Right.
fairdistrictspa.com. It's right there on your pen, actually.
Oh yeah, here it is.
But you couldn't see it.
That's
Yeah, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it for you, you know, you both coming and sharing your insights, and you know, obviously to the viewers here on the Facebook video, please feel free to reach out to Fair Districts PA and volunteer. If you can volunteer, they're always looking for volunteers. You can reach them. You can contact my campaign as well. It's votejasonruff.com, and I can pass your information along. I do have a little section on my website dedicated to fair districts because, again, I have been such a big proponent of this. Yeah. Anything? Last closing statements? Or?
Good luck, Jason.
Yeah. Thank
good
you
luck,
so
Jason.
much, Billy.
And to people listening, we need you to vote. We need you to register if you're not registered, and we need your help.
Yes.
You're important. You're really important.
They are.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. That was great.